Hi, I'm Odin, and welcome to DIY Prop Shop, where we recreate props using everyday materials without breaking the bank. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Build professional-looking websites regardless of your skill level. What I'm going to build today is the Pip-Boy 3000 Mark IV from the video game Fallout 4. The Pip-Boy is a pre-war personal information processor manufactured by Robco Industries and acts as a database for the player character's personal information and inventory. Bethesda released a Pip-Boy app for smartphones, so I want to make my prop to fit my phone so I can use the screen on my phone as the display on my Pip-Boy. The Pip-Boy is worn on the wrist, so mine will need to open up as well as latch shut and then hold my phone in place securely. To start off my Pip-Boy, I'm going to use a poster tube. What I'm going to do is cut a small section of the tube to be the right size for my wrist, then I'll need to cut the tube in half, install a hinge, and then build off of that. So in an attempt to cut a tube straight, I'm just going to hold the razor knife in place and then roll the tube. Now I need to cut the tube in half. To draw a line straight down the tube, I'll hold the tube flat in the table, hold the ruler straight up against the tube, and then draw a line. Now I need to make a second cut on the back side. I need to attach a hinge to the poster tube, and it needs to be secure, so I thought I would use a piece of wood. What I've got here is a stir stick. This is what you get from the paint department at a hardware store. This particular one is made for a 5-gallon bucket of paint, so it's not only longer, considerably thicker and stronger. But the best part, this guy's free. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my wood to be the same width as the poster tube, but then I'll glue it on offset later. It's just going to take multiple cuts to get through it. It's a little bit faster. What I need to do with these is glue them onto the tubes. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but I need to make sure that I'm a mirror so the two halves will line up when they're closed. So I bought a pair of 3-inch hinges. I only need one. What I want to do is attach this to the piece of wood, and that'll end up being the big hinge that's on the back of the Pip-Boy. This is where I need to pre-drill because the wood's so thin. If I just run the screws right through it, I will split this wood and have to start all over again. So my hinge is attached. Now the screws, of course, stick through the little wood. What a surprise. But I'm not worried about that. I'm going to be covering all this with foam core, so I'll be safe. The Pip-Boy latches shut on your wrist. I'm going to use a draw hasp. So the Pip-Boy fits this way, and my phone is going to end up being about here. Then the hasp will need to go centered to the monitor, which is going to be right down here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Dremel and I'm going to grind the tips of the screws off. Because there's a size difference of holes where the wrist is versus the forearm, I'm going to start bulking up the body using foam core. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a strip 4 inches wide, and then I'll score the back side so I can get the curve around the poster tube. So the last piece I'm going to cut in half and make my final ring. To help hide this seam and clean up some of the edges, I'm going to take a piece of self-adhesive fun foam So the first thing I want to do is add a couple of diagonal tabs coming off the wood to help give the hinge some support, especially if dog meat gets a hold of it. Now on the back side, I can cut a flat piece of foam core that will just cover everything. If I cut out a square of foam core the size of my phone, I then glue that straight on here, and then I can put up a little bit of support underneath it. So I have the beginning of my frame made. That will fit on here. Now I've got a power light that goes on the top. I've got a power light that goes here. To make my power lights, I'm going to use some battery-operated tea lights. I am bending the LED to make it fit for the lower power light. So I want to put a washer on it right here. Now I still haven't glued the light in place because I want to remove it so when I take it outside to spray paint it, I don't spray paint the light. The more I look at this, the more it's just fun little tiny pieces. Some of them will be attached to the lid that I plan on taking off that holds the phone in place. Some parts will be attached to the armband itself. So I've got my lid, that'll hold my phone in place. I need to put the selector dial on the side and a couple of the knobs. So I'll start putting those pieces together. So I picked up a couple of knobs from a hardware store. And then, once it's painted, I can glue that on right there. So a lot of this is just cutting and recutting, trying again, cutting some more until I get exactly the shape that I want. So now I need to make the front bezel. The piece that goes in the front here that makes it look like an old-time television. To do that easily, I'm going to go ahead and make myself a paper pattern. I'm going to trace out, this is the window I need to see my phone. This is the topmost I can be. That's the side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out, make my first fold. Scoot it back and forth until those two lines match up. Fold it in half and match up these two lines. So now I know where the center of my screen is. I'm going to use the same cap I'm going to use for my selector. And that's just the corner. I actually want to extend this line out to the edge. On the side of the wide portion of the bezel, there's actually the rad meter. The rad meter is a little too detailed for me to go ahead and paint, so what I did was I made some stickers. There's a downloadable link in the description so you can print your own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out my rad meter. So that's going to be the bump for the rad meter. Now I just need to cut this out like a paper snowflake, but I have to be careful of the rad meter because this isn't perfectly symmetrical. Now I need to cut out the middle. I gotta remember, I don't want to cut out my screen line, I want to cut out my bezel line. Now I just need to make one of these out of foam core. So the last piece I need to put on is the tube that mounts here in the back. To do that, I picked up the Twisty balloon set from the dollar store. The tube here is just about the right size. It's a little small, but it'll look good. I'm going to use a 90-degree PVC elbow. This is for half-inch PVC pipe. There's a little cap that goes between the two of them. I'm going to use the lid from an old contact lens container. The only part I need to mount before I paint it is the elbow. All right, now we can go paint it. So the pure khaki color I think is not exactly what I want. It's a little too clean. I'm going to try and dirty it up a little bit with this spruce. So I got my part spray painted. Now these guys belong in a post-apocalyptic world. So what I want to do is give them a heavy dose of silver dry brushing to make them look scuffed up, and then come back and wash them with some brown paint and make them look dirty. Add some water to this. So I'm done with the weathering. Now I'm going to put the knobs on. This here is a leftover nozzle from Meccana spray paint. The radio knob, and because the thread is so long it has to go where the phone isn't going to be. I'm going to start to put my stickers on. My rad meter. This sticker represents my list of choices. I'll go ahead and have that set on inventory, I think. This little square just says rads. I have one here that says power. This is the radio stations. This last label here just says tune. My last one is a Pip-Boy logo. It's supposed to go up in the top here. I made the background oversized, so I wasn't 100% sure just how big it needed to be. Now I'll cut the excess off. And that's all the labels. I'm going to glue the lights into the lid. I'm going to do the same thing with this one here. The last thing on this, there's actually a little bit of a sun visor that wraps around the top of the Pip-Boy bezel. To do that, cut a strip of self-adhesive foam. Now, the second piece is going to go and line the inside. making it a little bit thicker. Now I don't want to leave this just square. One of the things I'd like to do, I've got some small screws and stuff I took apart years ago. Now there's a wire that runs from the tip of this on down to this piece here. Now I'm going to use a small piece of wire left over from a broken karaoke microphone. Now I have some model paints. Now these are enamel model paints. They'll actually bond to the metal, whereas the acrylics, when they dry, will just scrape right off. Last thing I need to do is I'm going to take a couple of rare earth magnets and attach it to the base. Then I'm going to take a nut and attach it to the lid. One on each side. I don't want my phone to fall out. Turn my power lights on. I'm going to turn my phone on before I put the lid on. And I'm going to start up the app. Here's my completed Pip-Boy. The total cost for parts was only $21. I also spent another $11 on some new Kansas spray paint. Let us know in the comments what other builds we should do. And if you try any of these builds for yourself, please send us a picture at DIYPropShop@Brake.com. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Man, you think after all these years I'd be better at this. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. For more information, click the link in the description.